Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good afternoon, everyone. It is good to be in Kentucky, and certainly good as this is my first official visit as regional administrator, and so I'm so excited that I get an opportunity to be here on a day such as this, celebrating Earth Day, Earth Month, as my daughter would say, the whole month is dedicated to Earth, and really invigorating both of us in terms of what we are doing and what our challenges are as we move forward. So again, Secretary Peters, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And Arnita, I cannot thank you enough for as welcoming as you have made me here. I appreciate it truly and look forward to coming back again today, again in the future. And greetings to all the cabinet members that I've had an opportunity to meet, councilwomen, mayors. I feel at home, and it's always a good thing. Can I be at home? See, I love it. Okay, so I feel comfortable. We're good. It's wonderful to get an opportunity just to sit and talk and meet and mix and mingle with people, because that's how we involve all of our communities in the environment and what is so important to us all. I see good friend Bruce in the back. We had an opportunity to spend time together, and we were talking about our kids. And Bruce, if your son still has as much energy as my daughter, hopefully we'll get some sleep soon one day. I don't know when. To all of the award recipients, thank you. I would say congratulations. You're going to get congratulations, but I want to say thank you. Because of the work that you do that has gotten you the attention of this award, you make the difference in our communities, and we need more people like you. So before you get your award, thank you very much for all that you do. So you've probably read from my bio, I am a daughter of the Mississippi Delta. I was born and raised in the Mississippi Delta, and I'm actually accompanied here with another Region 4 leader, Mr. Franklin Hill, who's also from Mississippi, so I feel like Mississippi is well represented here. We are here. But being a child of the Delta, I understand firsthand the issues that are associated with not only protecting natural resources, but also really ensuring that those very same natural resources are here and they remain healthy and vibrant, because that's what employs and feeds our children, our friends, and our families. And it's because of the people that I see in this audience. And everybody in this audience is special. But there's some really, really special people in this audience. There's a little person sitting right there, licking a fork. I love it. Two little people back there. That's why we do what we do. Because we have to make sure that those resources are here for them. So thank you for making sure that they are here. Because this is what makes our jobs what they are, and the passion of what we have to do each and every day. See, in the Mississippi Delta, we say all the time, if you want to know how to deal with some type of travesty, just come to the Delta. We've been doing it for 100 years. We know how to figure it out. We've dealt with flooding, drought, certainly agricultural issues are their core issues to us, and it's sometimes difficult to put into perspective the impact of climate change where we live. But it's very simple. Climate change will change the footprint of many farms, agricultural communities, by really impacting the amount of crops produced. And if we don't act now, we have to have some sense of urgency. So I know that in this room, you're all very familiar with many issues that are surrounding our changing climate, and I want to briefly share with you some of the thoughts that we have at EPA on how we're doing some things and really trying to change the landscape of climate change and how we think about it on a daily basis. This year, EPA is tackling climate change head-on by centering all of our Earth Day activities around one simple theme: act on climate. And acting is more than just giving speeches and shaking hands and taking pictures. It's actively engaging in the environments in which we live, we work, we pray, and we play. It's getting outside to see firsthand how extreme heat and flooding occurs, and how it will detrimentally affect the livelihood and vitality of any rural community. It's environmental fairness, environmental balance for all communities. You already know I love to run outdoors. I ran this morning. And I realized if I had run just a little further, I would have been here. But I enjoy getting outside. I enjoy the fresh air. If you're a runner, you know you have to breathe. Air is very important to us. But I love the sights and sounds of a community, and it's amazing the things that you can see when you're out walking or running simply by looking down, looking up, looking around, and embracing the surroundings that we have about us. So I ran this morning. I ran your community this morning to see the things that I would see. I visited the river. I ran past the bedrock by the golf course up here. I saw and touched the seawater that was coming out so that we can feel, touch, smell, and see the environment around us. I felt the wind coming off the hills. I'm from the Delta. I don't do hills too often. So I felt it. And I took deep breaths. But they were good breaths, because they were lung-filling, they were fresh, and they reminded me of why I'm here today. So from the mountaintop communities to the low-lying valley communities, Kentucky, I know firsthand, has vast, lush, diverse landscapes with unique species and habitats that need to be nurtured. But I know I'm preaching to the choir. Administrator Gina McCarthy has already charged all of EPA to meet the challenges ahead by incorporating 7 overreaching and overarching themes into our daily work. And they are to make a visible difference in our communities, to address climate change and improve air quality, take action on toxins, toxics, and chemical safeties. And I was talking to a young lady, where are you? Right there, about some of those issues that we're dealing with. And that's one of the things that the administrator has charged us with. Protecting water, which is a very limited resource. I'm from a river town, so I understand how important it is to protect your water sources, not just as a means of beautification, but water is how we, and our rivers are how we use our transportation, where we play, we swim, we fish. It's sources of many needs in our lives. Launching a new era of state, local, and tribal partnerships. Embracing EPA as a high-performing organization. We have a theme of one EPA. We all work together for the common good of people in our communities. And then finally, working towards a sustainable future. EPA, in response to the President's Climate Action Plan, is proposing a realistic, common sense strategy to build and strengthen resilient communities. Don't forget, I'm going to keep reminding you of these little people that are sitting in this room, because if we keep remembering them, we keep remembering why we have to be resilient, why sustainability is so important. Since the beginning of his second term, he's asked the federal government to roll up our sleeves and get to work acting on climate and addressing what more than 95% of climate scientists agree is the cause of climate change. And part of this includes working with our states and local partners to develop and implement resiliency planning. It also includes cross-agency strategies, working with other agencies such as HUD, Department of Transportation, to really ensure environmental sustainability across all of our federal agencies. And no matter where you fall on the spectrum of belief in climate change, I think that we can all agree that the climate is changing at an increasingly rapid rate. And because we've seen the extreme heat and cold weather patterns over the past few years, we can say that through data analysis, we know that we're dealing with an unprecedented change. Now, we know that because the scientists are telling us that. But we also are learning and listening to the people in the communities in which we live, because they're telling us the same thing. Tell you a quick story. My first day at EPA was January 27th, 2014. That's when I was sworn in and came into the office and dove head first. January 28th, 2014 was when we had the great ice capades of Atlanta, Georgia, where I went from one day having on a short sleeve dress. I had on short sleeves that day, didn't I? Short sleeves, to the next day in boots, and walked outside, and lo and behold, slipped and broke my ankle on my second day. The running joke was, we usually don't break our RAs that quickly, but in this case, we had a tremendous shift in weather patterns just like that. And I don't need to tell you or remind you what happened not only in Atlanta, but what has happened across the country with respect to changing climates and how we're responding to it. No, we have to know and see from this that our past does not necessarily predict what the future is going to be. And many of the outcomes that EPA and its state partners are trying to attain, for example, safe drinking water, clean air, are very sensitive to the changes in climate. So there are a lot of stark realities that we need to deal with. And that's why EPA's climate adaptation plan is so important. So through this, we can address several things. First, the increased risk of sewer overflows and wastewater bypasses. And I was talking, I want to say it was one of the commissioners that's, maybe not, it was someone I was talking to earlier that used to, there you are, right there. we were talking about some of the issues that you deal with when you talk about wastewater, and I'm a former mayor, so when people's toilets don't flush, the phone rings. You don't think about these things until something happens, but it's important that we address these issues ahead of time with climate change in mind, so that we are making sustainable decisions that will be lifelong and such that we can continue to use technology, we can continue to grow, and we can ensure that our children are living in environments that we have adequately prepared for them. The integrity of coastal water infrastructure systems, the potential for increased ozone pollution in certain regions, and the increased risk of cross-contamination from EPA sites due to heavy precipitation events. These are all things that we can address under our climate adaptation plan. And this is where we know that the plan is critical to ensure that investments made with taxpayer dollars are effectively used in terms of the climate changes. In Region 4, we have worked hard to develop our own adaptation plan and begin to address some of the identified vulnerabilities. So, how are we planning to act on climate? In several ways. We intend to act through collaborations, partnerships, outreach with our states. One of the first things we did was we were able to bring together all of our state environmental commissioners alongside our agricultural commissioners to have our first ever joint meeting, to have that cross conversation about how things were impacting the states, listening to ideas that were coming from our states in our region, and actually having everyone in the room to say that we're here as partners. We're not here to dictate to you what should be done, and certainly we know that you're not going to dictate to us, but we are here hand in hand for one purpose, that we can agree we are here to protect our environments. We're encouraging states and tribes to develop appropriate coordination processes between water quality and water supply decisions to really ensure proper implementations of the state's water quality standards. So again, we're here to support and to be collaborators with you. We're continuing to work with states on the incorporation of green infrastructure components. And with respect to Superfund sites, and Mr. Hill works with Superfund sites, we will, in conjunction with tribes and state agencies, initiate an interagency dialogue to plan and coordinate efforts to consider climate change impacts. We're working with local, state, federal emergency preparedness and response counterparts and businesses to develop implementation strategies to address adaptive measures needed for climate-related changes, and work with states and industries to address enhanced emergency planning and operating permits. These things are critical and important because when the emergency happens, you don't have time to right then and there put plan. You already got to have the plan in action. I don't know about you, but as mayor, and mayor, you can identify, you deal with emergencies every day. There's all kinds of things that we come up with or that come upon us that you have to respond to. But it's so much better when you're not exchanging phone numbers in the parking lot and you've already got relationships and have an opportunity to work the plan that you've already established. So partnering with other federal and state agencies, nonprofit organizations, community groups, environmental justice communities, various activities, programs, schools, churches, faith-based organizations, bringing everyone to the table helps us to establish those partnerships and make sure that those plans are ready and available for everyone. Something we're working on is community translation. What's that mean? I can tell you that coming in, I could come in and don't get me wrong, I've worked with, I've been a mayor, I've worked with EPA in a couple of different scenarios, but sometimes when you walk into a room, and I love all of my scientists and engineers, but when we walk into a room sometime and I see numbers on the board, I say, what does that mean? I don't know. And if I don't know it and I can't explain it, then I can't explain it to that mother who has 3 kids and her kids have asthma and she wants to know what's happening in her community. So we have to learn to translate. We have good information, we have good stories, we do good work, we have great partnerships, we have to translate it well. So we have a lot on our plate, but with all of us working together, we're going to face the reality of climate change. And we're going to face it head on, and we're going to handle it well. Kentucky is already working towards resiliency for communities throughout the state. For example, Kentucky worked hard to help us to have an informed process on the Clean Air Act, 111D, the carbon standards for both new and existing power plants, and we thank you and appreciate you so much for participating in EPA's unprecedented initial outreach to hear from stakeholders. We wanted to hear from you before drafting a standard. And we look forward to working with Kentucky in the future once the draft standard is announced. So what more can we all do? We can continue to be innovative by leading and by example. And we have innovative work here in Kentucky. The Kentucky's energy, environment, and economic partners are hard at work developing and implementing practical solutions to enable Kentucky communities to thrive economically, environmentally, and sustainably. We're working in the area of environmental justice, or I like to say environmental fairness and balance, because it is a requirement, it is critical, it is vital to ensure that all of our communities are moving forward and no one is left out or left behind. Let's continue to reduce our carbon footprint by employing more fuel-efficient cars, energy-efficient building designs, and being overall more climate resilient and better prepared for the future that we all know that we can't exactly predict. Let's continue to focus on our children. Let's put them in STEM programs. Make sure they're getting the science, the technology, the engineering, the math. Making sure that they are prepared to one day step into our place. I will not be here forever, and I, like you, plan to retire one day. But I also want to retire and make sure that someone who is coming into the position is well equipped with not only the preparations that we as a group have done to ensure that they're equipped, but that those 2 little ones over there and that little one right there can step in proudly and continue the work that we have already established, knowing full well that they are working together for a sustainable earth. Let's continue to do the things that we know must be done, because I don't know about you, but I like to breathe. And I plan to continue to do so long as the Lord allows. So let's continue to think of every one of the 1 or 2 things that we can all do differently today to ensure that we have a resilient and sustainable tomorrow. And as my 8-year-old daughter will tell me often, Mom, just do right because it's right to do right. Thank you very much.